one of those travel days. You know the one. The kind you'll eventually laugh about, but only after you've recovered. I was in Venice for the Biennale, roasting in the heat, walking slower than normal, and drinking an absurd amount of water, trying not to melt as I wandered from pavilion to pavilion before heading to the next leg of my trip, London. I had booked myself a hotel that was, let's call it aspirational. Rooftop pool, breakfast included, the kind of place I normally wouldn't splurge on. I had already started feeling guilty about spending that much money, but at this point in the trip, we're just making it rain. Then I received the email. Your British Airways flight has been canceled. Okay. And you've been rebooked for Monday. Monday? 2 days later? You're expecting me to just continue roasting in Venice by myself for 48 hours? Looking back, I probably should have gone straight to the airport and insisted they find another way to get me to London. Instead, I was hot, confused, trying to figure out my options while standing in the Venetian sun. My friend and I decided the smartest option was for me to head back to Barcelona and stay with her. At least I'd get out of the heat. At least I'd have a safe place to regroup. Then came the next hiccup. I purchased what I thought was my flight to Barcelona, except I actually bought the exact same flight for July, not June. Now, in my defense, Venice is not the easiest city to navigate. It's even harder when your cell phone service disappears every time you step into a building. So there I was, standing outside, sweating, trying to make travel plans between bites of pizza because I was genuinely worried I might faint if I didn't eat something. Once I realized I bought the wrong ticket, my brain simply said, buy another one. So I did. Eventually, I was booked on the correct flight, leaving close to midnight. At that point, I was just relieved to know I was getting out of Venice. Then I turned my attention to my very expensive London hotel. Surely they'd understand. Nope, denied. The booking website wasn't much help, but because my American phone doesn't make international calls, I couldn't even call British Airways directly. For probably the first time on this trip, I felt more dependent on someone else than I wanted to. The next morning, I went to the British Airways desk at the Barcelona airport, hoping they could help. They couldn't. Then I called Chase, where I booked the original flight. To their credit, they refunded the ticket. And somewhere in the middle of all this, I stopped trying to rescue the trip I thought I was supposed to have. London will still be there. Instead, I'm staying in Barcelona for a few extra days with my friend before flying directly to Manchester. Not the itinerary I planned, but maybe the itinerary I needed. A few days ago, I made a video about learning to trust myself. Yesterday, put that trust to the test. Because confidence isn't about making perfect decisions. Confidence is trusting that even if you make the wrong one, you'll make the next one. Travel has this way of stripping away the illusion that you're in control. Flights get canceled, hotels refuse refunds, cell service disappears exactly when you need it. You accidentally buy a plane ticket for the wrong month. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, you realize resilience isn't always graceful. Sometimes resilience looks like sitting on a curb in Venice, eating pizza in blistering heat while refreshing a customer service chat. Sometimes it looks like sleeping on a friend's couch in Barcelona. Sometimes it looks like changing your plans instead of fighting reality. I still wish I made it to London, but I don't regret choosing peace over forcing an itinerary that was no longer working. Maybe that's what confidence really is. Not clinging to the original plan, but trusting yourself enough to write a new one.